here is Chris Sidoti talking about the obligation vis-a-vis genocide. Then we're going to look at the ridiculous response from Israel, and then we'll look at his response to that.
The most significant aspect of the interim orders of 26 January 2024 was that every country in the world was put on notice by the International Court of Justice that there was a plausible risk of genocide in Gaza. And if it had not happened before that, it certainly happened then, that every country in the world became obliged under the law to take action, not to speak fine words, to take action to prevent genocide. There can be no doubt whatsoever that that obligation was activated on the 24th of January 2024, if not before. And in response to your question, that applies as much to India as, Jamie, it applies to Germany and the United States, as it applies to my country and every other country.
Okay, so you want to react to that, or do you want us to get to the great part, which is Israel's response?
I want to react to that, although I can't wait for the great response. And it's just, an example of how we should be responding to them anyway. Because I had the same thought before you played that clip, right? This idea that somehow the Genocide Convention is the convention to prevent. Right? That's literally in its title. And so when the ICJ in 2024 says that it's plausible, it basically imposes a series of obligations of how to avoid it and to prevent it if it didn't definitively exist. And amongst the things that it proscribes in its provisional measures is that it makes clear that humanitarian aid must reach all Palestinians at all time, the civilians at all time, that they should have humanitarian corridors, that they should have safe quarter, that they should have relief. And they also say very explicitly that if Israel cannot fight this war in any other way than in one, if it is a war, as Israel wants to insist, and it cannot fight it in any other way than how it's resulting in these outcomes, then it shouldn't fight it, right? So we're being told really early on that either they're going to find another way and they're going to make sure that people are safe, but they don't have permission to, run roughshod in what they call as a war, which is obviously not a war. But even if we took that for granted, the other thing that I want to say, not only did all these states, disregard this obligation under international law, this like brazen disregard, most evidently by the United States and its allies, Canada and Germany, and I think even Australia at the time, they respond to it by cutting aid to UNRWA, right? They respond to it literally by going after those who do need relief, the Palestinian refugees. But add insult to injury, when the ICC, the International Criminal Court, now this is a treaty-made court, unlike the ICJ, which is a derivative, right? The primary judicial organ of the United Nations. But when the ICC then issues these arrest warrants, you have these countries that now have an obligation, who are parties to the treaty, to arrest Netanyahu, instead making excuses about why they don't need to, including France, which says that they don't need to arrest Netanyahu because Israel is not a party to the Rome Statute, which is absolutely not true and legally inaccurate. And then you have other states, you from Hungary, which maybe we're not surprised by, but then, last week, Starmer welcoming Netanyahu. And so there's this brazen disregard of international law that, again, it's, going back again, how Mouin described it as a cop-out. They're using the law and the lack of definitive as a cop-out at the same time that they're violating the law systematically and undermining these international institutions.
It is really unbelievable that they're trying to almost get away with not having to stop a genocide. It's like they're looking for loopholes, right? They're not trying to do the right thing. It's almost like, what's it like corporate compliance when you hire a lawyer to show you how you can break the law without breaking the law?
Precisely. I just, while you were showing that video clip, I just looked up the third member of the Independent International Commission of Inquiry is Mouin Kothari from India. So I just wanted to note that. And just to follow up on what Noura just said, Greece, Italy, and France, all three of whom have ratified the Rome Statute. and are members of the Assembly of State Parties of the International Criminal Court, have effectively repudiated the Rome Statute and have effectively left the court de facto because Netanyahu and Gallant, both fugitives from international justice, wanted and indicted for war crimes and crimes against humanity by the ICC, have been permitted on multiple occasions to use their airspace on their way to their hero's welcome in Washington. Now, imagine if one of the Africans who were often indicted by the ICC had flown through these countries' airspace, or Russians, and had been allowed free passage. All hell would break loose, But Israel, the Israelis constantly complain about double standards. Well, yes, they are held to a different standard than everyone else, which is to say that the standards everyone else is supposed to abide by are never imposed on them.
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it's interesting that they bring it up. They're right that there's a double standard. It's just in the opposite direction,
yes,
as you were just saying, Mouin. Well, let's take a look at the response from Israel, because it's a doozy. Okay, so this is from Israel Foreign Ministry. I won't read the whole thing, but I'll just capture some gems. So in response to the Pillay, Sidoti, and Kothari Commission of Inquiry's fake report, 3 individuals serving as Hamas proxies, notorious for their openly anti-Semitic positions and whose horrific statements about Jews have been condemned worldwide, released today another fake report about Gaza. The report relies entirely on Hamas falsehoods, laundered and repeated by others. These fabrications have already been thoroughly debunked. In stark contrast to the lies to the report, Hamas is the party that attempted genocide in Israel, murdering 1,200 people, raping women, burning families alive, and openly declaring its goal of killing every Jew. By the way, I just have to say, because I can't openly lie. I don't want it. That's obviously a lie. Just pushing back, because I don't want anyone to clip that and think that I'm saying that that's what actually happened. Miraculously, all 3 authors of this fabricated report have recently resigned. This goes back to what you were saying. They should not be replaced. Israel categorically rejects this distorted and false report and calls for the immediate abolition of this commission of inquiry. And then we'll just give you guys a second to gather your thoughts and process that. And we'll go to Chris's response to that.
Israeli Foreign Ministry today decried a distorted and false report and said that 3 individuals, so referring to the Commission of Inquiry, 3 individuals serving as Hamas proxies, notorious for their openly anti-Semitic positions. Could you please comment on that?
These reports should be taken seriously, but honestly, the Israeli responses are becoming so boring. They say the same thing every time. They're producing the responses by ChatGPT these days, and they spend so much money in the Foreign Ministry on propaganda. You'd think that they would actually come up with something original. I would want them to engage with the evidence, but they never engage with the evidence. They put the report into ChatGPT, and then they put out the standard response. So no one takes it seriously, and Jamie, you shouldn't either.
Yeah, that's not how you ask.
Well put.
Yeah.
Can I just say, to me, the key sentence in the response of the Israeli Foreign Ministry is they should not be replaced. As far as Israel is concerned, the problem is not the members of the commission. The problem is not the reports the commission issue, although, of course, they strenuously reject all of that. For them, the key issue is that this commission simply should not exist. The idea of a commission that actually examines Israel's conduct and crimes is sacrilege. And you see exactly the same thing with the special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in the occupied territories. Yes, they constantly condemn Francesca Albanese, but they have constantly condemned each of her predecessors in precisely the same terms, always concluding with, this person should be removed and the office should be abolished. The position, rather, should be abolished.